A few months ago, I made a video talking about the 5th episode of the Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe one-shot series, Millionaire Village, and how it would be getting an anime adaptation in the form of an OVA by none other than David Production themselves that would be releasing this summer. Well, summer is finally here, and as expected, the OVA is set to be releasing soon. I say that with concern as the OVA doesn't have an official release date and will be releasing in a rather different way because it is in fact an OVA, which are specifically meant to be just DVD releases and not televised. So the way David Production is going about distribution is that they're going to be mailing a copy of the OVA to everyone who has purchased all of the Diamond is Unbreakable Blu-ray DVDs. So this is of course mostly restricted to the Japanese audience because the Blu-rays are so newly released and only available in Japanese. Although it's not impossible to get your hands on the Blu-rays, you can actually just find them on eBay. I assume that you will need to have purchased them and all of the Blu-rays from the official Japanese website for proof of purchase so they know who to mail the OVA copies to. But based on the prerequisite for getting your hands on the OVA, it's safe to assume that those who did buy all of Diamond is Unbreakable legitimately and went through some sort of product registration should have their OVA copies in the mail now or even have already received them. So now it's just a matter of time until one of the people who got the OVA legitimately uploads the RAW to the internet and then English translators can get a hold of it. So unfortunately, it seems one of the only ways for the international audience to watch this OVA is through piracy, but just remember that there are plenty of ways to officially support the series, like buying the official release of the manga and Blu-ray DVDs in your region. So that's sort of the logistics of the OVA's release, but now let's talk about the screenshots that David Production released a few days ago that everyone cannot stop talking about. Okay, so the screenshots we have seen are of Rohan, his editor Kyoka, Okuyasu, and Koichi. I know that everyone and their dog's girlfriend have said their opinion on how they think these characters look, especially on Okuyasu and Koichi.
Koichi looks like Kim Jong-un. Oh, fuck. Fucking Okuyasu looks like a sexual predator.
But before I give my opinion on the characters' appearances, my first reaction to seeing these screenshots was wondering why Koichi and Okuyasu are even in the OVA in the first place. From the majority of screenshots, character profiles, and information from David Production on this project, it was pretty clear that it would only include Millionaire Village. Okuyasu and Koichi do not appear in Millionaire's Village, but they do appear in another episode of the Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe series, the 4th episode, Poaching Reef, at the very end, as well as in Rohan at the Louvre. And in both of these other stories, they have very, very minor appearances, being in it for no more than 3 pages, having more so just cameo appearances than actually relevant to the story. So based on the screenshots, mostly the setting that we see the characters in, we can make a few inferences. One being that David Production will possibly surprise us and this OVA will contain more than just Millionaire Village. And if that's the case, well then which episode would it be? Well, it's a bit unclear as both times we see Koichi and Okuyasu together in the one-shots Poaching Reef and Rohan at the Louvre, they're at a very similar location, all sitting together at a table. But from the OVA screenshots of Okuyasu eating something, it leans things in the favor of the OVA, including Poaching Reef, the one shot where Rohan and Tonio go swimming. But sadly, even though there is some strong reasoning behind this theory, I don't think that is what's going to happen. I strongly believe that the OVA will be based on Millionaire Village, but just won't follow the source material 100%, adding some character cameos and fan service to make fans of Diamond is Unbreakable who haven't read the original one-shot feel a bit more comfortable and familiar by adding some familiar faces to the story, like Koichi and Okuyasu. I came to this conclusion pretty confidently just by the few screenshots alone because first off, Koichi is sitting directly to Okuyasu's right, differing from the other appearances, as well as the windows behind Okuyasu being identical to the ones in the shot of Rohan, presumably sitting at the same table. But I think the most convincing piece of evidence is Akira's scene behind Kyoko, which was not in the manga at all. So David Production is taking some liberties with the source material this time around, and I'm usually fine and even advocate at times for them to add material or change things around for a better experience. But right now, I'm not sure how I feel about Okuyasu and Koichi being involved in this story. I mean, I suppose I wouldn't mind having them just in the beginning for some David Production original interactions and conversation, but if they were to stick around and join Rohan and Kyoko Kyoka on their journey, I wouldn't help but think that it would completely change the story, but I don't think David Production would change the source material that much considering their previous works on parts 1 through 4. So now with my thoughts and concerns on the adaptation story-wise out of the way, I suppose I could talk about what I think of the character designs. To put it simply, they're not anything I didn't expect. I mean, of course the characters are going to look vastly different from their Diamond is Unbreakable adaptation counterparts. They were based off Araki's art style from 1995, and now in the OVA we have skipped forward 17 years. 17 years of Araki drawing nearly if not every day, and all of that time Araki gradually evolved as an artist. And adapting Araki's newer art style is undoubtedly more challenging than the earlier and middle point parts, considering how his art has shifted towards a much more realistic style when compared to other parts or just other series in general. So I guess that's just a reason for why they look the way they do, and honestly, they do look a bit fucked, but I mean, they look a bit fucked in the manga too. Just don't judge the entire production by these screenshots, as Koichi and Okuyasu probably won't be in the episode for more than a minute or two. But as for Rohan, Kyoka, and Ikkyu, I think they all look amazing and faithful to the manga in its newer art style. The change in style is going to be much more apparent when animated, as they can't gradually change the designs over time, so they have to pick a style and stick with it from the beginning to end. If you remember, back when Diamond is Unbreakable first got adapted, people made a big deal about the way Jotaro looked in a new style, and that was only from parts 3 to 4. This OVA adaptation is skipping forward 3 whole parts art style, and it looks like David Productions still tried to keep them more similar to the way they looked in part 4. I mean, I think this looks better than this Koichi, and they really didn't have a lot of references, as we never saw a full front-facing panel of Koichi in any of the Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe episodes. And Okuyasu, honestly, I think looks better animated than in the manga. And if you take a look at a lot of the redrawings for the Part 4 Blu-rays, David Production has had a habit of making characters' eyes much larger, and they were probably working on the redrawings and the OVA at the same time, so that can explain why Koichi looks this way. It seems that this is what David Production would consider a well-animated character, as of course they had way more time to work on the Blu-ray redrawings in the OVA, more so than pumping out the episodes weekly when Diamond is Unbreakable was airing. And really my final thought on their appearances is that we have not seen them in motion yet, which is a big deal. Really never judge any production by just a static screenshot, especially in animation. And I know David Production won't animate their expression and body language like say Studio Bones would, but I'm just saying it's going to look better in motion. And that's pretty much everything I have to say about the Rohan OVA, except I just can't wait to actually watch it. But for now, we wait. Thank you all for watching this video, like if you enjoyed or if I fought your boredom, and of course subscribe for more videos. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed, and let me know what your favorite character design was from the OVA screenshots so far. Mine personally was actually Kyoka's. I thought she looked pretty decent.